Once upon a time, in a small, quiet village, lived an old man named Arthur. Arthur wasn't a bad person, but he had one major flaw. He was incredibly lazy. He spent his days sitting on his porch, dreaming of a life filled with riches and comfort. But he never lifted a finger to make it happen. As you can imagine, dreaming doesn't put food on the table, and soon, Arthur found himself not just poor, but truly hungry. One day, a sharp pang of hunger finally pushed him out of his chair. He had to do something. So, he went to the nearby town and found some odd jobs. He swept streets, carried water, and did whatever small tasks people would pay him for. At the end of a long, exhausting day, he had a few coins in his pocket. He felt a small spark of pride, but that spark quickly fizzled out. He went to the market, and by the time he bought a loaf of bread and a small piece of cheese, his hard-earned money was almost gone. The next day, he was hungry all over again. This cycle continued for a while. Work, earn, spend. Work, earn, spend. Arthur realized this was a dead-end road. He thought, I can't live like this forever. I need a plan. I need to save for the future, for a day when I'm too old to work. So, he bought a sturdy clay jar and decided that every day, no matter what, he would put one coin into it. It was a sacrifice. Some days he'd eat a little less, just to make sure that coin went into his jar. He'd shake the jar, hearing the clink of the coins, and feel a sense of security. This is my future, he'd whisper to himself. This jar will protect me. Months turned into a year, and the jar became heavy. Arthur felt proud of his discipline. He decided it was time to see how much he had saved. He poured the coins onto his table, his eyes wide with anticipation. He counted them all up. It was a decent sum, more money than he'd ever had at one time. Feeling confident, he took his savings to the market to buy a warm coat for the coming winter and perhaps some better food. But at the market, he received a harsh shock. The price of everything had gone up. The loaf of bread that used to cost 1 coin now cost 2. The coat he had his eye on was far more expensive than he remembered. He stood there, holding his pile of coins, and a cold dread washed over him. He realized that while his money was sitting safely in his jar, the world outside had changed. The value of his savings had shrunk. His year of sacrifice felt almost worthless. The security he thought he had built was just an illusion. Feeling utterly defeated, Arthur sat on a bench, watching the world go by. His young grandson, Leo, came and sat beside him. Leo was a bright, curious boy, saw his grandfather's sad face, and asked what was wrong. Arthur explained his predicament, how his savings had lost their power. Just then, their neighbor, a cheerful farmer named David, walked past with a basket full of fresh eggs. David always seemed to have enough, and then some. Leo, with the simple wisdom of a child, pointed at David's chickens pecking around in his yard. "Grandpa," he said, "David doesn't save his eggs in a jar. He has chickens that lay new eggs every single day." A light bulb went on in Arthur's head. It was so simple, yet so profound. David didn't just have eggs. He had an egg-making machine. Arthur looked at the last few coins he had left. It wasn't much, but it was a start. He remembered what his grandson said and looked at David's bustling little farm. An idea began to form, a new kind of plan. Instead of taking his money back to the empty clay jar, he walked over to David. He used his remaining money not to buy eggs to eat for a day, but to buy 2 healthy chickens. It was a risk. He was spending his last bit of money on something that might not work out, but he was tired of his old ways. He took the chickens home, built them a small coop, and started caring for them. Soon the chickens began to lay eggs. At first, he and Leo had fresh eggs to eat every morning. It was a small luxury, but it was consistent. Then, they had more eggs than they could eat. Arthur started selling the extra eggs to his neighbors, the money from the eggs. He didn't just spend it. He learned his lesson. He bought more chicken feed. Soon, he saved enough to buy another chicken, and then another. His small flock grew. Wasn't just selling eggs anymore. He was selling chickens too. His small venture turned into a steady, reliable source of income. He was no longer just surviving. He was thriving. The money wasn't just sitting. It was working for him, growing and multiplying day after day. Arthur looked at his little chicken farm, a stark contrast to the dusty, empty jar sitting in the corner of his room. He finally understood the secret. Saving money was like trying to catch water in a leaky bucket. You work hard to fill it, but slowly it drips away through inflation and rising costs. But investing, making your money work for you was like planting a seed. With a little care and patience, it grows into a tree that provides fruit year after year. He pulled his grandson close and shared his newfound wisdom. "Leo," he said, "I spent most of my life thinking that saving money was the key to wealth. I was wrong. The real secret is not to save your money, but to make it multiply. Don't just put your coins in a jar, put them to work. Buy a chicken that lays golden eggs. Plant a tree that bears valuable fruit. Make your money grow because stagnant money loses its power. Growing money creates a future."